Welcome to Joe's Astrology. And this is a special edition where I want to talk about how things in the world and people in the world will screw up your life and will screw up your astrology. And this is where astrology can really help people because there's no shortage of people who are suffering from this, unfortunately. Many people call it ignorance. You've heard the term ignorance is bliss. Well, for some people, ignorance is bliss. But for many people who have charts like charts I'm going to describe here, ignorance is definitely not bliss. And I'm going to give you some examples. Hopefully they're not watching this channel, or this video. Some of these examples come from real people I've met in my life. They're probably not watching, really, so it doesn't matter. But generally speaking, you could say, before I get into the specifics, generally speaking, religion is one of the things that for many people will screw up your life. And as I said, ignorance is bliss. There's many people out there that are religious, that is perfectly fine for their life path. It works perfectly with their astrology. But there are many people that it has and will fuck up their life. And I'm going to give you an example of that. So to take religion, for example. There's many things about religion I have no issues with. But this is one where I do have an issue with. So let's say religion, you get into a religion and your religion tells you that, you heard the common sin of sex is bad. Sex, you wait till you're married to have sex. Masturbation is bad. Pornography is bad. This is a sacred act, etc., etc. Again, I have in other forms, maybe, in some, like generally speaking, some of this is not nonsense. Much of it is nonsense. But what we're talking about here specifically is for a person's specific life path. So let's say, for example, in your chart, you have the North Node in Aquarius, and you're living in the age of 2024 that we're living in now. Maybe it's 2030, maybe it's 2040, especially as time goes on here. But this could be any time, but particularly now. And you have the North Node in Aquarius. And there's indication in your chart that you are running away from your North Node, or you're having a problem integrating your North Node with your South Node. And if your North Node's in Aquarius, then your South Node is in Leo. And let's say your South Node is in Leo, and you're coming from this place of Leo creativity, wanting to express yourself. And let's say there's strong sexual themes in your chart as well. And let's say this is something you have no issue with. You're young, you come into life young, you have had many sexual experiences, and this is something that you're comfortable with, that is part of your life. That if we look at many other people, it's the exact opposite. It takes them longer. They don't have a lot of sexual experiences early in life. Maybe throughout the life, it's more of a struggle. But for you, it's something where you really find a need let's just say it's fulfilling for you because it is the way you really express yourself with that Leo, the South Node Leo. And as I mentioned, 2024, we're in the internet age, and let's say you start to meet people that you have a chance of being in a long-term relationship with. And let's say, because if you think of Scorpio, let's say there's like the idea of like Scorpio being in the chart, Scorpio themes. You think of commitment, Taurus, Scorpio, and you think of commitment. And let's say there is if this person was interviewed, they would say, yes, I want to be in a long-term relationship, a long-term committed relationship. That's what I want. And every time they find themselves in a long-term committed relationship, this person starts to say and do things that they don't like. They start to say and do things that are weird, that are unorthodox. Aquarius. Let's say they find out that the person is not just watching pornography, but watching pornography regularly and actually maybe obsesses over it more than the average person. Let's say that the person is constantly or occasionally asking to have sex over the internet. Like, let's say you're in a long, you find yourself separated, and they want to have what you might call, I don't forget what they call, virtual phone sex or virtual sex or whatever. And this is something you're not comfortable with, or you may have a problem with for some reason or another. It could be a fear. It could be, well, I don't want anyone seeing this. And there could be more. There could be more to this. Let's say the person wants to film you or wants to film this, but you have a fear or don't trust them, right? And maybe for good reason. I'm not saying that this is not for good reason, but there's many problems. This can bring up many problems. But just kind of giving you the example of this North Node Aquarius, and I have seen this with many people. So, clearly the desire is there if they're being honest with themselves. They may even think that this is cool or interesting, but then simultaneously the fear is there as well. And simultaneously the judgment from their religion. It could be even they're not even part of the religion anymore, but that's still there from when they were younger. And the reason why this can cause a lot of problems is because it can ruin relationships. Let's say the person brings it up and says, well, if you're doing X, Y, and Z, I can't be with you. If you're doing X, Y, and Z, that's taking time away from me. And I don't like that. Leo, the self, thinking about the self, and not Aquarius, thinking about the group, the other person. The complaint could be, well, my religion says this, and I think maybe you are conscious of this, you still believe in it. My religion says this, and I don't want to be judged by God because I think that's wrong. You may even think it's wrong and immoral when it's not. And you may think of, well, so-and-so might find out. I'm afraid that if someone sees it, it'll ruin my life. All these fears and things like that could be completely irrational. And you're juggling this in your life and you're fighting it. And where you can see that this is really a problem, where it becomes, where I say it will become a big problem, is when this theme continues over the life, right? You're in a relationship and you break it off. It could have been something potentially long-term that you desire, and you break it off for these reasons. And then you're in another relationship, and the same thing happens. And then another relationship, the same thing happens. And meanwhile, you're telling yourself, well, it's because of this. You're making excuses. You're saying, because of this, it's because of that. I need to try this. I need to try that. And, before you know it, you find yourself 40, 50 years old, and you're still going through the same thing, struggling to find that long-term relationship that you desire. And this can be, I've seen people struggle and fight this for an entire life, and I would imagine that they are struggling and fighting this for lifetimes, many lifetimes. And we can see that in the chart as well, particularly if they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They hit their second Saturn return and they still haven't been released from this agony, this Groundhog Day, that they are continuously justifying in their life for what reason. And unfortunately, there are people who will go lifetimes suffering like this. They don't even see it as suffering. People can be so righteous in their beliefs that they actually think that they're doing the right thing. You think stubborn. You think Taurus being stubborn. With the idea of Taurus and Scorpio being involved, people can be so stubborn that you see them do this too. You see the really deep religious people. Well, they'll go deep with their religion later in life, and they'll give themselves completely to God, and they're not actually giving themselves to God. They think they are, but really what they're doing is they're fighting. They're fighting their own evolution, and it's sad. It's very sad from my perspective. I know many people like that as well, that they think that they're close to God, and they're not even, they're football fields away from God, and they have no fucking clue. And it's sad. Let me give you some other examples. Let's think of some other examples here. Let's say you have let's say you have your north node in, let's say your north node is in the first, and your south node's in the seventh, and there's strong Neptune or Pisces themes in your chart, and you deal with your partner, south node in the seventh in Pisces, maybe, north node in the first in Virgo, and you're dealing with your partner being an alcoholic, and you have a strong desire to be in a relationship. You're extremely codependent. You have a hard time being independent. You find yourself in a relationship your whole life. Always been in relationships. But, starting from a young age, it's maybe more accepted. Your partner's drinking a lot when you're young. A lot of young people drink, and it's not a big deal. But then as you get older, it starts to become a problem. And you maybe even break up with this person. You find the courage, first house, to be independent and break up with them. But then immediately after, you find yourself in another relationship, and they're an alcoholic too. And it doesn't start off that bad, but then it gets worse and worse. And then as life goes on, you start to realize, I don't want to be with a partner who's an alcoholic. It's not what I want. It's not for me, etc. But really, what the chart maybe is saying, that it's important for you to separate and be independent for a while in order to accomplish this. First house, north node, analyze the situation, Virgo. Take care of yourself, first house, Virgo, north node, first house, etc. And you're thinking, the real impetus for the change is this idea in reality that you don't want to be with an alcoholic, but you find it hard to be by yourself. Maybe the situation makes it hard. You don't have the finances to move away and get your own place. And if you do have the finances to move away and get to your own place, it's a place you don't want to live because it's dangerous or you're scared, etc. And you find yourself struggling with this for the entire life. And this could be a main point for you to accomplish, this idea of being independent. And you may have to live by yourself in a place you don't want to live for your entire life alone to accomplish this. It may be that bad. And this is where, courage and, you can see this in the chart. Unfortunately, people do not, they're not going to go full in with their lesson and accomplish this in one life. They're going to go back and forth, lifetime to lifetime. And you can see why this specific circumstance, if you've been in this circumstance or if you know people, you can see why this can be a major problem in life, where you're not going to be able to accomplish that north node, first house, Virgo, in this life. And again, it's unfortunate. It saddens me as an astrologer to see this. Being a person in my own life that I don't really, I have my own lessons and my own struggles. I don't think they are as severe as these. And other people may look at my life and think that it's terrible. But from an astrological perspective, to me, this Groundhog Day, if you will, is way worse than anything I'll experience. See, me, I'd rather go through the shit. I'd rather go through it, get it over with, learn from it, and move on. And that's kind of what characterizes my life. I see the Groundhog Day and I run like hell, and it might be months or years before I wake up to the Groundhog Day. But when I see it, I'm done with it. When I become aware of it, I don't deny it. But these people, they go through the Groundhog Day, and it is, to me, is a form of suffering, and it's very unfortunate. So those are just a couple examples of how people will ignore these things. And, unfortunately, even if most of them don't know about astrology, they will ignore astrology. It gets so bad that people will say, this is where I think the idea of the devilish, astrology is the devil, astrology is a demon, astrology so-and-so said this. This is where I think this comes from, because that enables them to avoid their lessons. And this can get into a deeper conversation of what we're living in here, which I'm not going to get into this in this video. But that's where I think that comes from, which really is even worse. It's even scarier, if you ask me, that kind of situation. So there's just a couple examples of how purpose in astrology works, and how examples of people running from their lessons and being confused because they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing the best thing for themselves when in reality they're doing the worst thing for themselves. And even in worst case scenarios, they actually are into astrology. They look into astrology and they still can't face up to what's right in front of their face because of their beliefs, because of their irrational, just flat out wrong beliefs. So I'll leave you there with that. I hope you find this video helpful. Share it if you think this will help somebody else. If you have the courage to share it. I don't think many people will, but I don't have the courage to share this to my own friends and family, that's for sure. But please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content, and have a great day.